My name is Emma. I'm 32 years old. I work in a small office in the city. My life is simple and quiet. Every morning, I wake up early, drink a cup of coffee, and take the bus to work. My office is not big. There are only 12 people working there. Most days are the same. I answer emails, write reports, and talk to my coworkers about small things like the weather or lunch. Before, my life felt calm but a little lonely. I did not have many close friends. After work, I usually went home, made dinner, and watched television. Sometimes I read a book before sleeping. My life was peaceful, but sometimes my heart felt empty. I often wondered if something exciting would ever happen to me. Then one day, everything started to change. It was a Monday morning when we heard the news. Our company would have a new boss. Everyone in the office was curious. Some people were nervous. Some people were excited. We did not know what kind of person he would be. Would he be strict? Would he be serious? Would he be kind? Around 10 in the morning, the office door opened. A tall man walked inside. He wore a simple blue shirt and a dark jacket. His hair was slightly gray, and his eyes looked calm and warm. He looked around the room and smiled. "Good morning, everyone," he said in a gentle voice. "My name is Daniel. I'm happy to meet all of you." His voice was soft and friendly. When he smiled, the whole room felt warmer. Even the nervous people in the office relaxed a little. Daniel was 40 years old, but he looked younger because he always smiled. He shook hands with everyone. When he reached me, he looked directly into my eyes. "Hello," he said kindly. "You must be Emma." I felt a little surprised that he knew my name. I smiled politely and nodded. "Yes, nice to meet you." At that moment, he was just my boss, nothing more. I went back to my desk and continued working, but something inside me felt different. I could not explain why. During the first few weeks, Daniel quickly became popular in the office. He was not like other bosses. He did not shout or give orders in a cold voice. Instead, he spoke kindly to everyone. He listened carefully when people talked. He remembered small details about our lives. One day, he asked a coworker about her sick mother. Another day, he asked someone about their child's school. People liked working with him because he treated everyone with respect. Sometimes he came to my desk to check on my work. "Emma, how is the report going?" he asked one afternoon. "It is almost finished," I replied. "Take your time," he said gently. "I know you always do good work." His words made me feel proud. No boss had ever spoken to me like that before. Slowly, I started to notice small things about him. I noticed the way he smiled when someone told a joke. I noticed the calm sound of his voice during meetings. I noticed how patient he was when someone made a mistake. And without realizing it, I started to enjoy talking with him. Sometimes he stopped by my desk just to say hello. "Are you okay today, Emma?" he would ask. "Yes, thank you," I always replied. But inside, my heart began to beat faster. At first, I told myself it was nothing. He was just a kind boss, that was all. But days turned into weeks, and my feelings slowly grew stronger. When he stood near me, I felt nervous. When he spoke to me, I felt happy. When he laughed, I felt warm inside. Sometimes I caught myself thinking about him after work. At night, when I was lying in bed, I suddenly remembered something he said during the day. Then I would smile quietly in the dark. I tried to stop thinking about him, but my thoughts kept returning to him again and again. One afternoon, we had a long meeting. Everyone sat around the table listening to Daniel explain a new project. He spoke clearly and calmly. While he talked, I looked at the screen in front of me, but after a moment, my eyes slowly moved toward his face. I watched the way his hands moved when he explained something. I listened to the sound of his voice. Then, suddenly, he looked at me. Our eyes met for a second. I quickly looked down at my notebook. My face felt hot. I told myself, Emma, stop this. He is your boss. But my heart did not listen. A few days later, something happened that changed everything. It was a normal afternoon. I was working on my computer when Daniel walked over to my desk. Emma, may I see the file you finished yesterday? He asked. Of course, I said. I opened the document on my computer. He stood beside me to look at the screen. Our shoulders were very close. As he leaned forward to point at something on the screen, his hand touched mine by accident. Just a small touch, but my heart jumped suddenly. My face felt warm, and my hands began to shake. Oh, sorry, he said kindly. It's okay, I replied quickly. But it was not okay, at least not inside my heart. That evening, when I returned home, I sat quietly in my small living room. The room felt silent. I looked at the wall and thought about the moment when his hand touched mine. I asked myself a question that I did not want to answer. Do I like him? My heart already knew the answer. Yes, I liked him more than I should. But then something happened the next day that made my heart feel heavy. That morning, Daniel walked past my desk and smiled as usual. Good morning, Emma, he said. Good morning, I replied. As he turned to walk away, I noticed something shining on his hand. A ring. A wedding ring. My heart suddenly felt cold. For a moment, I just stared at his hand. I had never noticed it before. Maybe I had been too busy looking at his face. Now, the truth was clear. Daniel was married. I looked down at my desk and felt a deep sadness inside my chest. I told myself quietly, Emma, you must stop this. You must forget him. But something inside me already knew the truth. It was too late. My heart had already fallen in love. And love, once it begins, is not easy to stop. After I saw Daniel's wedding ring, my heart felt heavy every day. I tried to act normal in the office, but inside I felt different. Every morning when I walked into the building, I told myself the same words. Emma, remember, he is married. You must forget him. But forgetting was not easy when I saw him every day. Daniel always arrived at the office early. When I came in, he often walked past my desk with his usual warm smile. Good morning, Emma, he would say. Good morning, I replied. My voice sounded calm, but inside my chest, my heart was loud and restless. It felt like a bird trying to escape from a cage. During meetings, I tried very hard to focus on my work. I looked at the computer screen. I wrote notes in my notebook. I told myself not to look at him, but sometimes my eyes moved on their own. I watched the way he spoke to the team. I watched how carefully he listened to everyone's ideas. He never made people feel small or unimportant. One afternoon, he noticed I was very quiet. After the meeting ended, he stopped beside my desk. Emma, he said softly, are you okay today? I quickly nodded. Yes, I'm fine. But he looked at me carefully. You seem a little tired, he said. I forced a small smile. Just a long day. He nodded and gave me a gentle smile before walking away. But his kindness made my heart hurt even more because I knew something he did not know. I loved him, and I had to hide it. Days passed like this. I kept my feelings locked inside my heart. No one in the office knew my secret. Not my coworkers, not my friends, and especially not Daniel. Sometimes when I went home at night, I sat alone in my room and asked myself the same question again and again. Why did I fall in love with him? I never found the answer. Maybe it was his kindness. Maybe it was his warm smile. Maybe it was the way he treated everyone with respect. Or maybe the heart simply chooses without asking. One Saturday afternoon, I decided to leave my apartment for a walk. My mind felt full of thoughts, and I needed fresh air. The weather was beautiful that day. The sky was bright blue, and the sun was warm but gentle. I walked slowly to the park near my home. The park was full of life. Children were running across the grass, dogs were chasing balls, and couples were walking together and laughing. I found an empty bench under a tall tree and sat down. For a few minutes, I just watched the people around me. The laughter of children filled the air. Birds sang in the trees above me. It should have been a peaceful moment, but my heart still felt heavy. I closed my eyes for a moment and took a deep breath. Then, suddenly, I heard a voice nearby. A voice I knew very well. "Careful. Don't run too fast." My eyes opened immediately. My heart stopped. It was Daniel. He stood only a few steps away from my bench. For a second, I could not move. But then I noticed something else. He was not alone. A woman stood beside him. She had long, dark hair and a bright smile. She looked at him with warm eyes. Then a small boy ran toward them, laughing loudly. "Daddy, look what I found!" the boy shouted. Daniel knelt down and smiled at him. "That's amazing," he said. A little girl followed behind them. She looked younger than the boy. Daniel gently picked her up and kissed the top of her head. The woman laughed softly. They looked like a happy picture from a family photo. My chest suddenly felt tight. That woman was his wife. Those children were his family. For a moment, everything around me became quiet. The sound of laughter in the park felt far away. Even the birds seemed silent. I sat completely still on the bench. My hands felt cold. Daniel looked different now. In the office, he was my boss. Calm, kind, professional. But here he was something else. A husband, a father. He looked relaxed and happy with his family. The children held his hands while they walked across the grass. The woman smiled at him while they talked. They looked perfect together. I quickly turned my face away so they would not see me. I did not want Daniel to know I was there. Not like this. Not while my heart was breaking. I stared at the trees in front of me and tried to stay calm. Inside, tears were fighting to escape from my eyes, but I refused to cry. After a few minutes, the family slowly walked toward the other side of the park. Daniel lifted his daughter onto his shoulders. The little girl laughed loudly while holding his head. The boy ran beside them happily, and the woman walked next to Daniel with a peaceful smile. They looked like a beautiful and complete family. I watched them until they disappeared behind the trees. Then the park felt empty. I sat on that bench for a long time. My heart felt hollow, like something important had been taken away from me. I whispered quietly to myself, "He belongs to them." The truth felt painful but clear. Daniel was never mine. He had a life. He had a family. He had children who loved him. And I was only his employee, nothing more. Finally, I stood up and slowly walked home. The sun was beginning to set, and the sky turned soft orange and pink. But I did not notice the beauty around me. My thoughts were too heavy. That night, I could not eat dinner. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling in the dark room. My mind replayed the scene in the park again and again. Daniel laughing with his children. Daniel holding his daughter. Daniel smiling at his wife. Tears slowly rolled down my cheeks. I covered my face with my hands and whispered to myself, "Forget him, Emma. Please forget him." But deep inside my heart, a quiet voice answered, "I can't." The next morning was Monday. I did not want to go to work, but life does not stop because our hearts are broken. So I got dressed, took the bus, and walked into the office. I sat quietly at my desk and turned on my computer. I tried to focus on my work. Then, suddenly, I heard footsteps. Daniel stopped beside my desk. "Good morning, Emma," he said with his usual warm voice. I looked up and forced a small smile. "Good morning." He studied my face for a moment. "Are you okay today?" he asked gently. "You look a little sad." My heart trembled. I quickly looked down at my desk. "I'm just tired," I said softly. He sat down in the chair next to me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he said something I would never forget. "Emma, you are a very good person." I looked up in surprise. "You always help others," he continued. "You work hard. You are quiet, but you're strong." He paused and smiled. "You are special." The words stayed in my mind like an echo. Special. No one had ever called me that before. My heart beat fast again. I wanted to tell him everything in that moment. I wanted to say the words that lived inside my heart. "I love you." But I stayed silent because some truths are too dangerous to speak. Daniel stood up and returned to his office, and I sat there staring at my computer screen, knowing my heart was in deeper trouble than ever. After Daniel told me that I was special, my heart became even more confused. His words stayed in my mind all day. I tried to focus on my work, but my thoughts kept returning to that moment. You are special. No one had ever said that to me before. That night, when I returned home, I stood in front of the mirror in my small bedroom. I looked at my face for a long time. My eyes were tired, but there was also something new inside them. Hope. But hope can sometimes be dangerous. I slowly touched the mirror and whispered to myself, "Emma, what are you doing?" I knew the truth. Daniel had a wife. He had children. He had a life that did not include me. But my heart was not ready to accept that truth. Days passed and things in the office felt a little different. Daniel and I still worked together like before. But sometimes our conversations felt deeper. Sometimes our eyes stayed on each other a little longer than before. And every time that happened, my heart beat faster. One evening, something unexpected happened. It was a Thursday, and most people in the office had already gone home. The sun was setting outside the windows, painting the sky with soft orange light. I was finishing a report at my desk when I noticed that the office had become very quiet. Only 2 lights were still on, mine and Daniel's. A few minutes later, he walked out of his office and came toward my desk. "You're still working?" he asked gently. "Yes," I said. "I want to finish this report tonight." He nodded and pulled a chair closer. "Then I will stay and help you," he said with a small smile. For the next hour, we worked together quietly. Sometimes he explained something on the screen. Sometimes we discussed ideas for the project. The room felt calm and peaceful, but there was also a strange feeling in the air. Something unspoken, something both of us could feel but were afraid to say. Finally, when the report was finished, I closed my laptop and leaned back in my chair. "It's done," I said. "Good work," Daniel replied. For a moment, we just sat there in silence. The office felt different at night. Without the noise of other people, every sound seemed louder. Even the soft ticking of the wall clock could be heard. Then Daniel looked at me. "Emma," he said quietly. My heart suddenly began to beat fast. "Yes?" I asked. He hesitated for a moment, as if he was choosing his words carefully. "You are very important to this team," he said slowly, "but you are also important to me." My breath stopped. I looked at him, unsure if I had heard correctly. "Daniel?" I whispered. He sighed softly and looked down at his hands. "I should not say this," he continued, "but I want to be honest with you." The room felt very still. "I am married," he said. "I have a family. I love my children very much." I nodded slowly. "I know." "But," he continued, his voice softer now, "I also like you, Emma. When I talk with you, I feel alive. I think about you more than I should." My eyes filled with tears. Part of me felt happy hearing those words, but another part of me felt deep sadness because love was standing in the wrong place. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I took a deep breath. "Daniel," I said quietly, "I like you too." The truth finally left my heart. Saying those words felt both beautiful and painful at the same time. "But you have a family," I continued softly, "and they need you." Daniel looked at me with tired eyes. "I don't want to hurt them," he said. "Then you must not," I replied. Tears slowly rolled down my cheeks. I don't want to be the reason for someone else's pain. Daniel nodded slowly. He understood. We sat in silence again. It was one of the hardest moments of my life, because sometimes love is not enough to make something right. Finally, Daniel stood up. "Emma," he said quietly, "you are a wonderful person." Then he walked back to his office. I stayed at my desk for a long time after that. My heart felt both full and broken at the same time. That night, when I returned home, I thought deeply about everything that had happened. I realized something important. Love should not destroy lives. Love should not bring pain to innocent people. And most importantly, I deserved a love that was free and honest, not a love that had to hide in silence. So, I made a decision. The next morning, I looked at myself in the mirror again, but this time my eyes looked stronger. "Emma," I said softly, "you must choose yourself." At work, Daniel and I continued to see each other every day, but something had changed between us. We were still kind to each other. We still respected each other. But we kept a quiet distance. No more long conversations. No more moments that lasted too long. Sometimes our eyes met across the office. And in those silent moments, we both understood the truth. Some love stories are not meant to happen, but they can still teach us something important. Weeks passed, and slowly my heart began to heal. I started to focus more on my life again. I met friends after work. I started reading new books. I went for walks in the park, the same park where my heart had once broken. And one day, while walking there again, I realized something surprising. I was smiling. Not because of Daniel, but because I felt free. Daniel would always have a small place in my heart. I would always remember the kindness he showed me and the feelings we once shared. But now I understood something deeper. Love is not only about holding someone close. Sometimes love is about letting them go and loving yourself enough to walk away. My name is Emma. I am 32 years old, and my life is beginning again. A new story is waiting for me somewhere in the future, and this time my heart will be ready. Dear friends, thank you for listening to Emma's story. Sometimes love comes into our lives in unexpected ways. Sometimes it brings happiness, and sometimes it brings pain. But every experience teaches us something important. Emma learned that loving yourself is just as important as loving someone else. When we respect our hearts and make the right choices, we grow stronger. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video and share it with your friends. Your support helps Learn English by Stories grow. Don't forget to subscribe to Learn English by Stories for more simple English stories. Thank you for being here. Take care of your heart, and I will see you in the next story. Bye-bye.